Welcome to the practice room. I'm your host, Apurva. This podcast comes from a very personal place for me. I've always been curious about what it really takes to choose music, not just as something we love, but as something that we build our lives around. The riyaz, the doubt, the discipline, and the quiet decision to keep showing up even when it's hard. Through this space, I want to have honest conversations with people who are on this path and understand what their journeys really look like. Today, I'm excited to be speaking with one of my really good friends, Amrita Rao, who has been learning music since she was a child. And in this conversation, we talk about her journey, her relationship with practice, the moments that challenged her, and what continues to keep her connected to music. So let's begin. Hi, Amrita.
Hi, Purva.
Hi. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Um,
Thank you for having me. It
yeah,
was
it's a
always a
pleasure.
pleasure to talk to you.
Same here. So, Amrita and I, we've known each other for a while now, and it's always been a pleasure doing Riyaz with her, and and so I live in the US, and she recently moved to India, and I miss her so much.
I miss you too, Purva.
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning. I want to understand when did you first get introduced to music?
Okay, so the introduction, I would say it's in my blood because I come from a family of musicians. My grandfather is a harmonium player, and there always used to be camps set up by theater artists and musicians who came all over from all over India, and there used to be practice sessions, riyaz sessions. Although I was probably very small to understand that music was going on there, but yeah, it was definitely there all the time, so it's in my blood. But honestly, I think my first interaction with sound was very instinctive. I used to tie these rubber bands to furniture and pluck them just to hear the vibration. I didn't know it was music, but I just liked the sound. So
Wow.
that was there. However, my formal training began when I was around 7 years
Mhm.
with Srimati Lalita Hegde, my first guru.
Right. So when in that environment, right, where you were surrounded by so many musicians and theater artists, what do you remember anything from that time, as in what stayed with you from those early years?
The earliest memory is probably watching Saregamapa with my parents. I know I used to fall asleep watching that. Um, the earliest memories are not actually very romantic. It's I was distracted, I was restless.
Yeah.
I would play with anything around me during class. I even dozed off sometimes. So looking back, it's almost ironic, but today I sit for hours with the same thing I once resisted.
That's so true, and I have a similar experience. I was almost forced to go to classes by my dad, and then I almost used to doze off in class. But
Same thing.
yeah, yeah. We always needed that push.
Push,
Yeah.
definitely. Yes.
Um, but it's interesting how one common theme I see between all the current musicians, young musicians, is that they grew up in an environment where they were they were surrounded by musicians, and they were exposed to music really early in their lives, which is interesting.
Correct. Maybe it's just the accessibility, the
Mm.
number of the concerts held started to grow, and there was music when you're introduced to music, your parents would take you to concerts,
Mm-hmm.
made you listen to those cassettes and CDs
Yeah.
all the time. It was always there playing in the background, whether you're listening to it actively or passively, it was always there. So
Yeah.
there it goes.
Yeah. True. True. So when you finally began your formal training with your first guru, how was that like? Was it like a typical Alankar focus
Yes,
for
yes.
the first few years and then
Yes, so the Alankar, I was pretty young. Um, so a formal introduction had to be there. And it wasn't like I was singing many songs at that time. I was probably singing rhymes. So a formal introduction had to be there. I started with Alankaras, and it went on for quite a few years. And practicing was something that I was forced to do. It was something, it felt like something that I had to do. I didn't have a personal connection with it yet.
yeah.
And I think I was too young to understand what I was being given, or, the homeworks, or I was told to do something. I just did it because I was told to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the benefit of starting early. Advantage of starting early is that you don't question
Right.
what you are asked to do. I think if you were to start now, if your guru said do this 200 times, then you would question, do I really need to do it for 200 times? But
Exactly.
I think as a young student, you always,
It's like a rule. You just do it
yeah, yeah, you just
without
follow.
thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, so then, how many years did you learn from your first guru, from Lalita ji?
Um, I think I was around 13 when I was promoted,
Mm-hmm.
and I started learning from Pandit Parmeshwar Hegde ji.
Mm-hmm.
And until then, I was trained to sing a few chota kyals and a few ragas, do some set tans,
Mm-hmm.
understand what is alap. Although I didn't understand initially why I needed to do something in akar, I had a lot of questions, but I don't think I um, really asked anyone why I should be doing this. I just, as I told you, it was I just followed. It was a rule that I had to practice. I did. So more than the joy of singing, it was more of a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not my discipline. It was borrowed from my parents, from my teacher. I think the joy part of it came much later. Um, but yeah, it was initially the discipline that was forced onto me.
Yeah, yeah. No, that you articulated it so well. It's definitely the discipline that comes first, and then
Yes.
the joy, because then you're so it becomes a muscle memory, and then you start enjoying what you sing. So yes, I agree. Uh,
It wasn't that, I used to listen to songs and hum all the time. It was just that sitting in the class and learning something formally um, that made me not enjoy it so much, I guess. So
mm,
that formal sitting in the class and learning. But apart from that, I really loved. As I told you, I would put the rubber band and pull the strings just to hear, and I would say this is my tanpura. Although I didn't probably understand why a tanpura was used, but yes, I would say that.
yeah, yeah. So when you move to your next guru, that is Parmeshwar Hegde ji, how was your what was how did you evolve from being from Lalita ji's student to Parmeshwar ji's student? Was it more like the kind of elaboration you did with the rag, or more how was it like?
So then Hegdeji was very strict,
Mm.
and there were weekly classes. So whatever I was taught in the previous class, I had to submit it the next class.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I had to face the consequences. So there was a lot of fear attached to the practice while when I started with Hegdeji. And by then, I was also known as the singing girl in school. So
Mm.
um it um, it became serious much more before it became meaningful to me.
Mm.
So there was some identity attached to it. So um, I had to do it even before I was truly connected with it.
Mm.
Of course, there was a lot of practice going on because my guru was very strict.
Mm.
But looking back, I think. That is what helped me. A lot of things that I learned then. I was told whom to listen to,
Mm.
what kind of practice I should be doing for the duration. Everything was told, and I did that diligently.
Mm.
And I think because my guru was so strict to me back then, I was able to give in that amount of time.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving that insight to all of us. Um,
Thank you.
it so that's how it started for you. Now I want to get into this segment where I understand your day-to-day relationship with music, right?
Okay.
As a student of music myself, I would say that this is a very selfish endeavor because I have so
Mhm.
many questions and I want to understand what other students are doing when they are stuck, or of course, our gurus are there
We
to
have a lot of questions. Yes.
yeah, I mean, of course, our gurus are there to help, but sometimes it helps to understand.
Understand what's going on with the
Like,
others.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I want to understand what does a typical Riyaz session look like for you now?
Okay. Um, so now the Riyaz sessions are much more internal compared to how it was earlier. So earlier it was more about finishing what was given.
Mm.
Now it's more about staying with the note, understanding it, sometimes even questioning it.
Mm.
And it's not just how what I'm practicing at that moment. um, Listening to other artists is also a very very big part
Mm.
of Riyaz. So when I'm learning a specific rag, I try to listen to as many artists as possible. Of course, Guru gives a perspective of the rag and understanding of the rag. But to internalize it, to understand it more deeply, I think we need to give it more time listening to other artists.
Mm.
Um, so as I said, it's more about exploring the rag than taking one, like, and I'll do alap today, I'll do laikari tomorrow. That's not how it goes.
Mm.
It's more about internalizing the rag itself, try to understand the feel. What if I do something like this? Does it suit the mood of the
Mm.
rag? And of course, there are technical parts that I work on, like the tankari or the laikari, playing with the tal part. That is, of course, that has to be there. But apart from that, it's more internalized, I guess, the riyaz portion.
Mm. Yeah. So, so when you say, you said that sometimes you also uh, question uh, your has. So can you like elaborate more on that? What do you mean by question?
Questioning the suitability of the rag to what my thoughts are about the rag.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes, there is a bandish which just strikes,
Mm.
and there are a lot of things that we can take from a bandish. So. when that happens, going back to the nuances of the rag, um, does this suit? If I do um, some nuance in a specific rag, does it suit the emotion of the rag? Does it
Mhm.
feel like it's the rag?
Yeah.
Of course there are grammatical, things that we need to take care of,
Mhm.
but apart from that, what else can I do with this? I have these ingredients. What can I cook? What more can I cook? And,
Yeah.
my kids keep asking me to make something interesting, right? So that is what I try to do here also. I have the ingredients. What can I make to
Mm.
make it more interesting for myself? It's not for anybody else, for just for myself.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's such a good analogy. I so when you sit for Riyaz, you know how when we listen to our gurus and their gurus speak, they say, "Oh, हम लोग तो इतनी इतनी देर तक रियाज करते थे." Um, do you think that that's in this world where we are doing other stuff, and then also because we are talking about young artists who have chosen to be musicians
Mhm.
as professionals, I want to ask, how much are you able to spend on your riyaz now, with family responsibilities?
That's a very difficult question to answer. I wouldn't say, this is the specific amount of time that I spend every day. Um, but as you mentioned earlier, they used to say I spend this much time doing my riyaz, and I think it is needed at some point. To go deep into a rag, we need to spend like 2 3 hours just being in that
Mm,
um, zone.
mm,
I'm exploring a particular rag. I've just started to learn a particular rag, so I need that amount of time to just open up,
mm,
and see what the rag looks like at a very basic level.
yeah.
And once that is established, I think the other parts become easier. Once the um, understanding of the rag happens, the other parts get slightly easier, compared to the initial. So the amount of time that I spend for a raga, I don't want to give a specific number and say this is what I do every day. But as I said, there is a lot of active listening. There's a lot of passive listening.
Mm,
Sometimes I refer the music books that talk about these rags, or just go on looking for different bandishes that are out there, in on various platforms.
yeah.
So yes, as much time as I can give to a rag, especially when I'm just starting out, trying to understand the rag, I think
Mm.
I try to put in as much as possible, as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. Uh, how do you deal with difficulties when you feel like you first question would be, do you ever feel like you're not in a mood to
Of course,
you-
yes.
even sing? So how do you just um take a rest day, or do you just try to, like you said, you listen a lot? Do you also somehow stay connected to music those days, and then maybe like get back when once you feel like yourself?
Yes, so that happens a lot of time, especially with the kids and a lot of stuff going on with them. Physically, it's never an issue. It's very much of a emotional and a mental state.
Mm.
So it's also the weight of expectation sitting inside the practice that kind of
Mm.
uh, reflects on what I practice, or do I practice at all.
So,
Um,
sorry to cut you off, but is that
mhm.
expectation from yourself, or what?
I think it's more myself
Yeah.
than anybody else expecting it,
Mm.
because I've seen both sides of practice. Like having a lot of time and giving all the time to music, to not having enough time and not giving enough time to music,
Yeah.
to having time and not giving enough time to music. I've been through it all. So
Yeah.
um, um, the process of Riyaz has actually changed
Mm-hmm.
from obligation,
Mm-hmm.
fear, to something like a companionship.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes Riyaz feels like a space that I return to, and not something that I run away from. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, there are difficult days,
Mm-hmm.
and um, feeling lost. There are times that I feel that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, what am I doing, right? So it looks like going through the motions without feeling anything, even while I'm practicing. I'm just doing it for the sake of practicing and
Mm-hmm.
um, not anything else. But um, practicing, attending class, um, these are there. But feeling lost is like I'm doing all of those things, but I'm not really there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I almost quit dramatically, but I'm I know there were times that I definitely tried to escape in small ways. I even even as a child I was very creative at
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Escaping.
the I'm sorry.
Creative at escaping.
Escaping, yes, in my own little ways. But the breaking point isn't one moment. It's kind of a build up, and at some point music started feeling like pressure instead of
Mm-hmm.
space. That's it has happened to me a lot of time, especially after kids, the responsibilities increase, the whatever time is left after all of those things, I just feel like just sitting and not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
um so yes, that I feel that a lot of times. But I when I feel lost and when I come back to it, I realize that after that experience, um something opens up.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times that feel like that that whatever the time I spent is gone. Okay, but I think it's time to restart, and my family is always there to support me and give me that push.
Yeah.
And of course, attending concerts, that gives me a boost,
Mm-hmm.
like it's time to reset and do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you so much for being so honest about it, because I feel like we these days all we see is how beautiful you are on stage when you perform, but this is what goes on in the background, and
Yes.
it's important to talk about this, I feel, because everybody thinks it's a smooth sailing journey, but it's not, and there's so much that we.
Yes, everybody has their own story. It's not just this thing or the other thing. There may be things that we can't even think of. There are a lot of things that affect us
Yeah, yeah,
as
so
music.
true. So true. So when you're lost, or when you have taken a break maybe, or when you said that you have to reset, w- so when you come back to your Riyaz, how do you pick it up?
Um, I'll take a moment to.
Yeah.
Um, how do I pick it up? I think I realized that it's what I lack is not the skill; it was the connection.
Mm,
So when I'm not giving myself to the music, there has to be some kind of a shift that has to take place,
mm-hmm,
and that more than something happening internally, um, for me it is more external, like
mm-hmm,
um, a peer group, or something that triggers positively,
Mm-hmm.
that brings me back on track.
Mm-hmm.
It's very unlikely in my case that it has happened internally, but because um, while I'm in that phase, it's very difficult for me to motivate myself. Think of you know uh, how I can encourage myself to do something. It has to come externally for me, and God shows me a way. There is always something that happens that kind of brings me back on track. So I can't really say what happens, but something happens.
Yeah, yeah. That's so true. That's so true. I have experienced that too, and it's so true. And that external motivation that you get, and that is also, I think there's at least for me, I'll speak for myself, that intrinsic motivation is not, I can't survive on that for too
It's
long.
not easy.
It's
Yeah,
not easy.
it's
Not easy.
yeah.
I feel like that discipline is, you need to have a lot of discipline to be motivated always without external factors. I think one concert is good for me to
Yes.
bring me back to my Riyaz. That's so true.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
yes,
There's like a date. Okay, that is when I have my next concert. So I need to, that's the external motivation also that I'm talking about.
correct. Yes, yes, totally agree with you. Yeah. So I want to now move on to the part where I'm also more curious about, um, choosing music as a full-time path. I know you have a master's degree in behavioral sciences, and I want to know, at what point did you decide that no, I just want to do music and I want to choose music as my career. It's not an easy one, and I want to understand the thought behind it.
Okay. On the contrary, it was a very easy choice for me.
Mm,
Because my family, there are a lot of musicians who have, um, continued music in their own way.
mm,
Um, so it was um, the educational whatever the academics whatever I completed the masters, the bachelors. Um, that was always in the background. So music was always in the forefront.
mm,
Um, because even in school, um, there were teachers who encouraged me. They took me to different places to perform, competitions, and everything. And that showed me that um, academics can be not important
mm,
also. So that was the perspective that I got. So that gave me the confidence, to say that I'm good at this and I just want to continue this.
mm,
Um, of course, the amount of opportunities wasn't the same throughout. Sometimes something was, uh, you know, working out. Other times it wasn't.
mm,
And due to a lot of encouragement from my parents, my family. So they were the ones who introduced me to music, and there was, of course, expectation, but there was also a lot of support that I received from them. So academically, I was okay,
mm,
and my parents didn't really, bother.
mm.
Um, as far as I was not failing in my exams, they were okay with that. So
Typical.
that kind of gave me that confidence that it's okay not to be good at academics and at singing. So it's okay to choose one path.
Mm,
However, I decided to just continue my education Maybe someday I want to study something else, and I chose behavioral science for that reason. Maybe I will someday be able to merge these two um, subjects and do something else. That was there, but then I uh, later realized that if I want to be a performing artist, a PhD won't be of uh,
True.
much use to me, because that needs a lot of focus, and that's a very concentrated focus. I
Mm,
have to work on a specific topic, and you know I want to be a performing artist, and that doesn't really align with what
mm,
I want to be. So I tried to study as much as I could,
mm,
but then I even worked in corporate for 2 3 years,
mm.
but then I always knew that I wanted to continue music, so
Yeah.
I.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And and do you think, let's get into a little sensitive part of this is
Mhm.
financially, if someone
Ah.
were to just choose music as their full-time path, um, how do you feel about that? Can they be financially independent? How would you uh, what are some of the ways that you can make money?
Okay, so as a performing artist, I'll answer it differently.
Mhm.
Um, so you choose to be a musician, and there are a lot of ways in which you can um, uh, try to be financially stable. However, it's not like a corporate job where you have a fixed amount coming in every month, and there's security and everything.
Mm.
Um, it's a lot of risk taking involved in this. Um, I think teaching is one of
Mhm.
the best methods to be kind of financially stable. But that comes with a lot of other things as well. Giving time, effort, training the students. Training, students is not an easy task,
Yeah,
especially if they are beginners. Everything has to start from the beginning.
yeah.
Even matching the sa. Sometimes it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of um, um, it's a lot of it's too much
Mhm.
for a performing artist to be able to give time to teaching, as well as invest time in their own art.
Mhm.
So although an artist cannot depend completely on performances,
Yeah.
because they might be giving 5 concerts this month, next month there may be one or two.
Mm.
So it's not a really a fixed income that performing artist earns every month. So I think teaching is um, the only thing that I can think of
Mhm.
uh, for someone who wants to do music full time. So
Mhm.
that is one way to be stable while also practicing your art, giving time to your art, and continue to grow there.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was perfect. Thank you. Um, so, what do you think about opportunities? Do you feel like um, the since the time you have started performing, have the scene or have the music, the opportunities that you get, I'm sure that that has evolved as well, right? Because of so many artists coming up, great artists coming up. So um do you feel like you get good opportunities now?
So it's about creating opportunities, I feel. Um, a lot of there are a lot of factors that influence how many opportunities you get. It
Mm.
involves talking to other people,
Yeah.
um, you know, uh, um, attending different concerts, getting to know people,
Mm-hmm.
getting to know co-artists. It's more about advertising yourself
Mm.
more than anything else. So earlier, for me, a success, I measured success in terms of recognition. So
Mm.
it was um, how many concerts I give in a year, or how many people know me. So now it feels like continuity, being able to stay with music sincerely over time.
Mm.
um, so that is one reason which keeps me choosing music,
Mm.
because I've experienced what it can be, and
Yeah.
once you have found that, it's very hard to walk away.
Yeah.
So irrespective of the opportunities I get or I do not get, it's more about what I've experienced,
Mm.
and I didn't grow up loving music.
Mm.
I grew into it, and that makes this relationship very real. So,
Mm.
of course, there are a lot of opportunities that have opened up. You can create opportunities for yourself, being active on the social media. There are a different, there are a lot of avenues that you
Mm.
can, um, uh, you know, um, give yourself, like opportunities that you can give yourself.
Mm.
So, it's about creating opportunities rather than going looking for
Yeah. Yeah.
them.
No. So you said defining success for you today is measured by the amount of concerts you give. Um, but when you
It was earlier. Now it's more like, yeah, staying
oh,
with music,
oh,
really.
okay. Yes, yes, that makes sense. Yeah. So when you on a daily basis, right? What do you when do you say, "Oh, I really had a good Riyaz session today"? What does success
Uh,
mean to you on a daily Riyaz basis?
there are two kinds of things when it comes to success in a daily Riyaz session. Uh, One is the very obvious one. So I was able to do something um, less clearly or less um, um, creatively yesterday, but today I'm able to do that.
Mm.
For example, a tan I was able to do at a certain speed yesterday, but with practice I was able to do it clearly at this speed. So that is one way of feeling success
Mm.
in the riyas that you do. The second one is, I think, feeling complete after a riyas session.
Yeah.
That content. It's not every day that it happens. You pick a rag. Sometimes the rag is not right. Sometimes the mood is not right.
Yeah.
Um, but when everything comes together and you feel content
Mm.
after that riyaz session, I think that is what I would define a successful riyaz session. Um, and that's what it looks like. So it can be both ways.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, one question I really wanted to ask was at what point did you move from just doing Riyaz or just um, practicing the stuff that was given to you from your guru to thinking independently and creating your own uh, phrases or creating putting your ideas into a rag because I think it's not a struggle but I feel like initially when you start practicing, you're mostly only practicing what your guru is teaching you, right? There's no nothing from you that you're adding. At what point do you think that that transition happens, and do you make a conscious effort to maybe create a phrase that was not taught by your guru, but maybe like uh, try to consciously be creative? That
Can you
was
repeat that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you repeat the question again? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I'll give you an example. So, let's say right now, let's say I'm learning Yaman, and my
Mhm.
guru gave me a set of bandishes. She taught me bandish, and then she gave me a set of alaps, and then she gave me a set of tans, and I recorded my class with her, and then now my riyaz, the way my riyaz looks like is I just listen to the recording and I try to follow her and her
Mhm.
ideas uh,
Okay.
from the Bandish and Alap, Tan. But there's nothing that I am adding by myself.
Mm.
Just repeating what was taught to me, and I'm trying to
Okay.
just practice that. Right? So when I'm does it evolve to a point where you are independently, your guru is just giving you the rules of
Pointers.
rag, and then you just like start to explore because now you know how to explore a rag, right? So is there, do you distinctly remember when when you came to that transition point where you were able to independently think about a rag?
Um, yes, I think so. Recording is the culprit here. I remember when I started doing that,
Mhm.
probably when I was in my 12th. That was when I attended a workshop in Pune. So that kind of gave me a very different perspective on how I looked at music.
Mm,
Until that point, it was, I think, very mechanical.
mm,
Um, like Guru used to teach me a bandish, a few tans of, few vistar.
mm,
Um, that was the moment it kind of I experienced the shift.
mhm,
Um, so um, I listened to a lot of other musicians my age, and that was when it struck to me that there is a lot more
mm,
that I can do than what I've been doing until now, and it it changed my relationship with music completely after that point onwards. And um, uh, after that experience, I couldn't go back to how I was before. So it was something that had changed completely. There was a shift. I could notice that. And my guru noticed the change even before I could articulate it.
mm,
So that was very evident. The change was evident. So that was when uh, a lot of listening to other artists, a lot of exploration
mm,
in terms of what could be done with. I have a set of swaras, but what can what can be done with this? Of course, Guru has given pointers on what technically what has to be done, what has to be done, what has to be done to make it more beautiful, and all
mm,
of those things. But what I do with it, uh, um, look at it individually from my own perspective. Look at the rag from my perspective and understand it. I think that slowly evolved,
mhm,
and as as your gurus um, always say, a lot of listening is what you need to do. to be able to understand a rag
Mm.
completely. Learning different bandishes, learning the nuances in that particular bandish, or how the other maestros have treated that rag. Um, because every artist's treatment of that rag is different.
Yeah.
Uh, the feeling behind it might be difficult, or what they have been going through emotionally at that point also might have an effect on that day's riyaz or that day's performance.
Yeah.
So the uh, exploration part um, uh, has to evolve when you have internalized those swaras in your mind. Just sitting with the aro of ro also sometimes, or just having the tanpura
Yeah.
and playing sa and imagining what the swaras are traveling like in this rag.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, just being very imaginative about not singing, but just trying to see what is happening
Yeah.
uh, with the swaras.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it works for everyone, but that's something that has worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to a lot of ragas, a lot of recordings,
Yeah.
and not just once. Something. There's a phrase that you like. You kind of try and dissect it more
Yeah.
and see if there are other artists who have used the same thing. Does the book mention that phrase,
Yeah.
or is it something that the artist felt
Mm.
that needed to be done in that rag?
Mm.
So unless it's technically wrong, I think you're okay to explore the rag in your own beautiful way.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. No, thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned listening to different artists, right? Would you ever confine yourself to listening to just artists from the gharana that you were, the style that you were learning from? So, if you learned Kirana, then would you just confine yourself to Kirana Gharana performances, or would you just, irrespective of which Gharana the artist was from, would you just listen to all, all of the performances?
Uh, right. So the listening has never been unidirectional. Uh, when I'm listening to a particular rag, I try to listen to um, you know um, try to go deep into it, whether it's the vocalist or female vocalist, male vocalist, instrumentalist. Sometimes uh, just to get into the rag,
Yeah.
you need some door or some pathway to, and you never know which one takes you into the rag.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never confined myself to listening to only Kirana artists, or listening to only the bandishes that one Gharana follows.
Mm.
Uh, I have uh, I have I have not done that. Um, and even my guru wasn't very strict about who I listened to, so they
Mm-hmm.
gave me the freedom to
Yeah.
listen to whomever I like.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I copy a style of a certain. I listen to I religiously listen to Kishori Tai. No, I listen to Kishori Tai. Listening to Malini Rajurkar ji. I listen to Pandit Nikhil Banerjee sitar.
Mm.
So there are even Nazakat Salamat Ali. It's a completely different gaiki, but there are some aspects that we like, some things that we like in this rendition, this artist, that rag,
Mm.
um, or there are a lot of things. So I haven't confined myself to listening to any particular artist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One is the fear of inculcating their style,
Yeah.
and another is to just explore
Yeah.
explore what others have done with it.
Thank you so much for that insight. Ultimately, what do you think music has taught you about yourself?
Huh. About myself. Um, So I did not fall in love with music immediately. I resisted it. I ran away from it. I feared it. But ultimately, one day I met it.
Mm,
So the the sheer experience of enjoying something, uh, without a lot of consciousness of wanting to like it,
mm,
when you experience that, it's a totally different
mm.
feeling, and that happened to me.
Yeah, thank you. That was so beautiful. Um, Now I want to move on to a fun segment. It's called
Hmm.
Riyaz Rapid Fire.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, let's do something fun. Quick answers, no overthinking. Okay. So here we go. Morning Riyaz or late night Riyaz?
Morning, Riyaz.
One rag you feel deeply connected to.
Gavati.
One rag that intimidates you.
Marva.
Tanpura or app? We know the answer.
Tanpura. Yes.
Go to chai or snack during practice.
Dry fruits.
Ah, one non-classical song you love.
Uh, oh, um, I'm a A.R. Rahman fan, the older,
Compositions, yeah.
compositions. Naina Neer Bahaye from Water,
Mm.
um,
That,
Chup Kaise from Satya,
yeah,
Ahista Ahista from Swades. Those are my favorites.
nice. Yeah, my favorites too. One thing your guru always says.
सुनो सुनो अपने आप को सुनो.
Cool. Yeah. This was really fun. This was all the questions I asked. It came from a place of curiosity. So, thank you so much for patiently answering all my questions.
Thank you for doing this. I was experiencing a lot of things at the same time when you were asking different questions. So
I know.
um, it was good to introspecting and understanding what I feel about myself and my music. Thank you.
I know that makes me so happy because that's the goal. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you, like I said.
Same here.
Uh,
Same here.
yeah, and we'll stay in touch. I'll also link all your recordings or your channel below, and people can listen to you. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, and thank you again. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Apurva.
thank you.